You booked it, episode 194. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for joining me today on You Booked It, the #1 podcast where you learn how to create a successful entertainment career. I am excited to announce your new entertainment industry platform, the You Booked It community, is now free for everyone. Inside, you'll be able to chat and connect with Broadway performers, Emmy nominees, top choreographers, past podcast guests, and people just like you navigating this wild and crazy entertainment industry. Build industry relationships, learn how to create a successful entertainment career, and join in on live masterclasses with the industry's top leading professionals from Broadway and beyond. Tap the link in the show notes and I'll send you your invite link. And now, let's meet today's guest. Alrighty, let's get this started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Katie Lynn Johnson. Are you ready for this, Katie?
I'm so ready.
Brilliant. Katie is a Filipina-American actor, singer, and filmmaker based in Albany, New York. Since receiving her bachelor's degree in music from Houghton College, Katie has worked as a vocal coach with students on Broadway national tours, NBC's The Voice, and American Idol. In the Capital Region, she and her husband James are best known as the folk pop duo In the Valley, performing on television, radio shows, and stages across the tri-state region. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, Katie has continued to pave a way in television and film. Known for her most recent role as Bree in The Hating Game, starring Lucy Hale. Katie is elated to be starring in the upcoming short film, If I Could Tell You, a project she wrote and is executive producing with her team in upstate New York. Katie, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, fill in the gaps, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry?
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me first. This is just so much fun. I love your podcast. I grew up in Binghamton, New York, and I've always loved singing. Singing was kind of what identified me. And so for a while, I pursued that career, was working music jobs, gigging out with my husband after we got married and decided to become a duo. And then I started teaching voice lessons. So that's been a wild ride and just so much fun. But in the past few years, I recently felt just this drive to pursue the dream that I've been a little scared of doing, and that was becoming an actor. So film and television has always been a dream of mine, and I was finally ready to just take that leap and go for it. It's something was just, I couldn't wait anymore. So I've always loved storytelling, and performing was something I've always known. So it was a pretty easy switch to make, and I just wanted to follow my dreams at that point. So I took that leap and became a SAG-AFTRA actor, and I'm working the grind right now. But I do have to say, it just feels so good to pursue what you really love to do. So kind of on this mental high right now, and I'm making moves in the industry, and I'm so excited about it.
So cool. And you're right. When you really find that thing that you're like, that's it. That's what I need to be doing. Because I find for a lot of us entertainer folk, we tend to dabble here and there in different aspects, different little niches or pockets in the industry, right? And while they're all fulfilling on their own level, and we enjoy it, there's definitely that difference, right? When you stumble upon the thing that you're like, oh, there it is. That's it. That's what I've been waiting for.
For me, it was almost a place of comfortability. I don't want to say complacency, because I love music and I love singing, but I was too comfortable there. And I think challenging yourself and stepping out of that box is super important for you as a person. And obviously, as your career is growing, you want to continue to challenge yourself.
100%. Well, let's dig into this first section here. And Katie, look, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
Yeah, so the quote that comes to mind for me is something I used to on AIM make this my like away message, and I thought that was so cool. But yeah,
AIM,
this
yes.
is this is an unknown quote. It's not discovered who actually coined this phrase, but it is, "Some days there won't be a song in your heart. Sing anyway."
Oh, I really like that quote. Can you expand on that and how it's worked its way into your life and your career?
Of course. Yeah. As someone who struggled with depression for a while, this idea and this quote has gotten me through a lot. I mean, at different points in my life, it meant different things. In some ways, I mean, you could read that, and if you're in a really sad place, I mean, it might be like, why would I want to force that? Why would I want to sing? But this is who I am, and I don't want to forget this, and I know what brings me joy. So kind of just going back to those roots, and I don't want to say fake it till you make it, but singing just can be such a life-giving thing. And so it's also just a metaphor, you know, it's not just like physically singing, it's doing that thing that makes you feel alive. And some days you don't feel like doing it. So it's just been a really helpful thing. I've kind of struggled with my sadness and grief. So yeah, I've really loved it.
Yeah, I really like that quote. I've not heard it before. It reminded me immediately when you said that of a book called The War of Art. Have you read that book?
I have not.
It's really quite short, to be fair. With a 4-year-old, I audiobook everything these days, but it's quite short, and it is a really fantastic book, and it's about a guy, and it's not about a guy, it is the guy who's writing it, the author, and he is an author, and he talks about showing up every single day and doing the thing, whatever it is you do. For him, it's writing. For you, it's singing, it's acting. For us, whatever it is for you. But the idea is you do it anyway, because that's what you do. And that's what also creates more creativity, creates more inspiration. And even if you are in kind of a darker time, that by doing the thing, even when you don't just feel motivated to do it, actually helps you get through it and get to even better heights.
Exactly. Yeah. And another really beautiful thing about that quote, like when you don't feel a song in your heart, sing anyway, kind of reminds me at certain point that, you know, there's beauty in sadness. So even in those moments, like I'm the type of person that when I'm sad, I like to listen to sad music and sing sad music, which sounds a little backwards, but there's something about it. There's just this comfort, and music transcends, you know, there's a lot of beauty in sadness, and we should lament more. I'll talk about that a little later.
So good. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
And let's get into this next section here. And Katie, of course, you are an entertainer. I'm an entertainer. And I think that you'd agree that this industry can be one of the most subjective, brutally honest, and personally emotional industries in existence. And you know as well as I that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry like you're having now takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, yeah, there is an outrageous amount of fun and excitement being an entertainer, doing what we do, there are also our fair share of obstacles, challenges, and failures we are going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
Yes, that's such a good question. I have kind of a twofold response to them. First, I'll probably touch on this a little more later as we discuss, but in my own personal life, I lost my mother at 15. So there was this ripple effect in my life, as you could imagine, where like not having my mom there really shifted my like worldview. Like, what am I supposed to do? From birth till 15, I was acting alongside her. I was dreaming with her about the projects I would do, you know, being a star. You know, when you're a little kid, that's what you think about. And then all of a sudden it kind of felt like the rug was pulled out from underneath of me. Yeah, she was just so supportive. And so she passed away right as I was going into that season of picking colleges and deciding my next steps. So I would say my first big hurdle as an actor really was just a personal one in figuring out who I was and really learning what I was put on this earth to do, but do that on my own. So I think that was my first hurdle. That definitely was a huge impact on my career path. I floated away from this dream that I had when I first was in college, and it took me a little bit to get back on track. I'm really glad that I figured it out, and that was all thanks to a really wonderful counselor at my college. Like, this guy did so much more for me than he probably knows, but I was majoring at SUNY Cortland in TESOL, teaching English to other speakers of other languages, and kind of sounds a little random, probably. I just really love language, but in my meeting with him, he was like, "Katie, you're passionate about music and acting. You need to go." Like, he told me to leave, and that was just an amazing
Wow.
thing to hear someone who had this wisdom and who I really looked up to. He was just a great counselor. I hadn't had a great counselor till then, and that advice just really, moved me forward. And then many, many ways after that, I experienced the kinds of rejection and struggles that every actor experiences. There's just some mean people that you'll deal with in this industry, and I did experience some of that where, I was going through a tough time, and I felt like I was, I would almost say bullied, and it was just so sad. I was able to kind of be strong and get through that, and definitely lots of rejections, as I'm sure you know well, being an actor yourself, a musician, and yeah, just applying feels like just day in and day out. That's all I'm doing these days. If I'm not auditioning every day, I'm auditioning and submitting myself every other day. So it's just a lot of no's, and it's a lot of remembering like the goal and remembering who you are and not letting that get you down. So that's a big one. An example, actually, I think is probably my most like memorable disappointment as of pretty recently. I got really close to being on this off-Broadway tour, and I was working my butt off. I'm not a dancer. I am definitely a mover. And let me tell you, the dance audition was not for movers. And that was discovered so quickly for me. And I worked my butt off, and I'm talking like high-level technique, like triple pirouettes and fouettes and these things that I could not do. But I worked, and, I made it look not so bad for me. And I got really close, and then, that fell through. But that was one of my more recent, like, oh, I got so close. But, it's just getting back out there each time. So
For sure. You said to not forget the goal, why you're doing this in the first place. That's why it's so good when you really do discover that passion. Then you go, yeah, that counselor said, Katie, you need to be doing music, theater, things like this. And it's such a great industry, I think, in a lot of ways that most of us, I would say almost all of us that are doing it on a professional level, are very passionate about it because you really have to, right? Because there are so many no's, there is so much rejection. And to not forget why you started in the first place, and to remember you being 14, 13, 15 years old with all of that excitement and of the possibility before you get into the industry of what the reality of it really sometimes can be. And to reflect then on why you're so excited, why you always wanted to do this is super important, I think, throughout our careers, to keep reminding us, because it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and just seeing things for face value, just the rejection up front all the time. But it's bigger than that. We're doing it for bigger reasons than just
so
a couple
true.
of no's.
Mm-hmm.
So good. And let's move on to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living. Or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing in the entertainment industry. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I love this question. This is fun. I think it's important. I mean, we were just talking about understanding why you're doing the thing you're doing. So I think recognizing this moment in everyone's life is really big. So I would say when I was really young and got to go to my first Broadway show with like our middle school, I had this moment just sitting in the audience and sitting there and longing to be on the stage. Like, it was almost uncomfortable to watch because I just wanted to walk up and join them. And so that was one of the first moments where I was like, I'm different. My friends are all enjoying this show, and I am too, but I don't feel like it's enough to sit right here. And so that was a big moment for me. But in terms of just storytelling and this almost deeper desire that was really clarifying for me. When I was a kid, I always sang at my church, and we did this thing called special music. So it's a little Baptist church, and there would be like a reflection song. So it was like a whole solo, and I grew up doing this. So it's my thing I loved. And I remember singing this like super powerful song. It's called My Redeemer by Nicole C. Mullen, who's like the Whitney Houston in the Christian world, especially at that time. And anyway, I sing this song and I like sing my heart out, and I just love it. I love to just feel and really, really let the words mean something. And after the service, I had a woman approach me, and she was pretty elderly, and she was just moved to tears. You know, my little like 8 or 9 year old self singing this big song. And the way that she communicated with me, even at that age, I was able to see like, man, it's powerful to tell stories. It's powerful to create art and speak to someone in this language. So I think that was a really defining moment for me in more of the storytelling. Even though it was still singing, I mean, it doesn't matter what the language is that we speak, whether it's art or poetry or film or literature. You know, this is a beautiful industry that the world needs. And when we can communicate and, you know, impact someone, it's so much bigger than what we think. And I think during COVID, it's been really clear to people how important this is. You know, like I know there's this whole necessity kind of thing where we're like, okay, well, music isn't a necessity. I guess it's not the same as being a doctor or a nurse, but man, life is not the same without music, and life is not the same without, you know, live theater and all of that. So that moment for me just kind of made me feel like this is more important than just singing a song. And I never understood how people could just sing a song. Like I've always been the kid in the choir that people like notice because I'm having so much fun and my smile is so wide, and the people, these random, like my friends' grandparents are coming like, you have so much fun up there. You're just shy. It's like, yes, because it's fun. So yeah, that's my little winded response to that. But I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think it really is specifically to live performance as well. Of course, listening to streaming a song, that's cool. Watching Netflix, that's great. But live music, live performance, really nothing replaces that energy of being in that room. That I know exactly that feeling. You said you went to that Broadway musical and you said it wasn't enough for me to just be sitting in the audience. And I can so like viscerally relate to that experience. And you go to these amazing productions and you're like, oh, all I want to do right now is just get up and be on stage. I don't know what I'm going to do, but you just want to be part of it. You have this overwhelming feeling, and you just only get that kind of experience and that feeling from live performance.
So true. Yeah. I long for that live theater to come back, and it's so soon. I can feel it.
Yeah. Let's piggyback on that real quick, and let's talk about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the audition and callbacks, if they happen to be a part of it. What was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
Yes. So my booked it moment is super fun because I think it's different than what I've heard on your podcast so far. I'm going to start out with a little advice for people, I guess, because I heard this and it changed everything for me. And that is, if you want something, you got to go out and make it happen. You got to go out and get it yourself. And This is an industry, they don't sugarcoat things and they don't mind to hurt your feelings. And honestly, I'm a pretty nice person, but they don't care about you. So if you really want something, you have to make it happen. So my booked it moment that I would like to share is my decision I made pretty recently in 2020 to I wrote and I'm producing a short film called If I Could Tell You. And this project has been just such an eye-opening experience. It has taught me so much. It is teaching me so much currently. We're going to be filming it very soon. So yeah, it's just a really exciting thing I have coming up. And really it was this moment that I decided I'm not going to sit and wait to, just have something handed over to me because that's unrealistic. And I think for too long, I would go to bed dreaming, that I would get somehow a message from like a casting director that like, you booked the lead in this huge feature film. And that's just not how this industry works. And so my booked it moment is going to be when I made that decision to do something a little scary and write and produce my own short film.
I love that. And it takes a lot of, what's the word? Just a lot of confidence. Not even, I know confidence is the right word, but a lot of just, you know what, I'm just going to go do this. And you just got to barrel on through all of the discomfort, all of the fear, and you just got to go, I'm doing this because the end goal is worth it, right? Or what is the alternative if I don't do this, if I don't take this step forward, where I'm still going to be here just wanting to be achieving something else or something like this, right?
Right.
And you just got to do it. And I think that's a fantastic booked it moment. I can very much relate to that. I would say that this podcast and everything that's surrounding this podcast would be my booked it moment as well. It's the idea of creating something and really putting yourself out there, because it's not just you as a role in a production. It's you with everything that has to do with whatever that project is. And you really put yourself out there for a lot of criticism, and you have to be willing to do it because you believe that the bigger picture is worth all of that, right?
Right, exactly. And it's pretty terrifying. I also decided to write this story about my life. So it's based on my own experience dealing with loss and dealing with losing my mother and being her caretaker. And it kind of touches on some of the hardest things I've ever gone through. So yeah, it's a pretty scary thing, but yeah, like I said at the beginning of this call, it feels so good, even if they're baby steps. And this is maybe my biggest step so far, but even if they're baby steps, it just feels so good to actually know you want to do. There's something in your soul that's like, this feels right. So yeah, this whole process has been exciting. I already had caught the bug, film and television. This kind of creative producer role that I have is something I've never done before. And you're right when you say I have to have my hands in a little bit of everything. I've been very blessed to be surrounded by such amazing friends that are professionals in their own fields, audio engineers and videographers and directors. So we have a really great team that's come together for this project, and it's going to be really beautiful. And I can't wait to see how many lives this can touch, because from what we've already experienced, a lot of people need this story, especially right now. And yeah, sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself talking about the project, but producing this has been something that has made me more proud than anything. So
I really like that. Thank you. And please let me know when that project drops and goes live, because I would love to watch it. And
will do.
yeah, and let's lead into, which I'm just assuming it's going to be a bit about your short film, but let's talk about the present. What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And how do you see this entertainment industry transitioning and moving forward in the next couple of years through this pandemic?
Yes. So the project that I'm working on now is about to start filming in just about a month. So we're very close, and I'm so excited to actually, get the cameras rolling and have it start. But this short film, if I could tell you, is my big project these days. We're a small little team, but I'm really excited about the fact that we're upstate New York filmmakers, because I think the industry is feeding us this lie that you can only do film if you're in LA or right in the middle of New York City. But there's just so much creativity, and there's so many amazing, talented people here in upstate New York. So we're really excited about that. And this story, I'll give you a little bit of, what the story is about, because as I said, it's about my life, but kind of takes a look at this character, Noelle, which I'll be playing. And she's struggling after she loses her mom. And we kind of come into the story with her being out of it, really disconnected, really lost and isolated, which I think people will resonate with. And she's prompted by her therapist to write a letter to her younger self. And so that is kind of the big tagline I tell people about this short film. But when I was going through, some hard times, I read this book called Scary Close, and it was basically, it's such a powerful story, but one thing that just jumped out of the pages to me was the author talking about an experience with a therapist where he was told to look at an empty chair and have a conversation with his younger self. And I was like, dang, I wonder what I would, I wonder what current me could bestow upon little Katie, little young Katie with big dreams, a big heart, and very naive and unaware of what life is going to be full of. There's a lot of hard things that we're faced with. And so I really wanted to write this story because really my father-in-law puts it really beautifully. He says that we don't lament enough in our world today. We don't maybe talk about the things that trouble us and the things that give us pain, and we kind of want to push those away. And I think for so long I had done that. And this story is going to be a really emotional journey for me. It already has been. But I'm really excited to turn something like sadness and trauma into something beautiful that people can watch and just hopefully relate to and see themselves in. Unfortunately, so much of our world right now is losing people. We're going through trials that none of us could have imagined. I just think that when people are met with heartbreak after heartbreak, it can get really discouraging. And we're coming up on a year with COVID. So yeah, that's just wild to even think about, but really getting in touch with ourselves and starting to listen to ourselves and listen to, what our heart really needs is kind of a big thing for me right now. I'm just trying to be kinder to myself, and this story is going to be a huge piece of that. So yeah, I really am excited for if I could tell you in this story about talking to your younger self. So that is what's currently going on for me.
Yeah, thank you. And the idea of, like you said, writing a letter to your younger self or having a conversation with your younger self in an empty chair, that's such a weird idea to start wrapping your head around, because you can go, oh, don't do this. But then if you're thinking, oh, I'm talking to a younger self, but then you're talking to a child who also doesn't have perspective and can't possibly wrap their head around perspective. So how do you have that conversation without hurting them or making things go, the wrong way? Or how about all those wonderful things in your life that happen because of unideal circumstances? Gosh, I'm really interested to see your movie. And
Thank you. I can't wait to show it.
It's very cool. Yeah, beautiful. Let's move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round. I am going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right, first question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
Security, for sure.
Second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Asking myself if you love the process or if you love the prize.
Yes. Third question. What is something that is working for you right now? Or if you'd like to go pre-COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
Surrounding myself with like-minded people in the industry. So taking a look at who's around me and who I'm spending my time with, and just starting to meet people that are passionate about the same things that I'm passionate about. That's been huge.
So important. And the fourth question, what is your best resource, whether that is a book, a movie, a YouTube video, maybe a podcast or piece of technology that you found is helping your career right now?
Yes, the podcasts Just Shoot It. 2 directors named Matt and Oren who discuss all things film. Love that. That's been a huge thing for me, as this is my first time being assistant director and producing an entire short film. So I've loved that. And Living in the Light with Laura Lee Turner. So she was playing Karen in Mean Girls on Broadway when the shutdown occurred. And she uses that podcast and platform to illuminate other people's stories. So I love her a lot.
Brilliant. And the fifth question, if you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently, or would you keep it the same?
I would have jumped in right away. I am a pretty fearless person when it comes down to it, but I was trapped in my own comfortability. So that's jumping right in was my response.
Great. And the last question, what is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in this industry you'd like to leave with our listeners?
All right. So I have to give credit to a friend of mine. His name is Brock Urich, and he was the one that told me this, and I'm so glad he did. It was advice he was given. So as actors, we have these big dreams. We have so much ahead of us that we can see with our eyes, but it's so hard to physically, tangibly grasp it. So the advice he gave to me was, you know what? No one is going to hand you that leading role that you really desire, but you have every ability to create one yourself. You have every ability to write a screenplay, get some buddies together, go produce a film. And that was a game changer for me. I think it was that week that I sat down and I wrote If I Could Tell You. And if I could just give anyone who's out there like me, who's an actor, like longing for a career, but discouraged because you don't have the experience, or maybe you don't have the acting reel, or you just keep getting all the no's and you don't know how to get your foot forward, I would say you have the ability to go out and create. So go do it. What's stopping you?
Yes, such great advice. Everyone, please rewind that. Listen to that again. That was gold. And to wrap up this interview, Katie, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Yes. Oh, man. I'll start off with If I Could Tell You, the film that we are creating right now. We are so close to reaching our $5,000 budget. If you want to go support us or just check out where we are in the process, we're going to be posting on social medias and keeping people updated on the behind the scenes. So I'm really excited about that. You can go to ifICouldTellYouFilm.com. ifICouldTellYouFilm.com. Our Instagram is also If I Could Tell You Film. And then for me personally, my name is Katie Lynn Johnson. That's KATIELYNN Johnson. So you can go to my website. It's katielynnjohnson.actor, or my Instagram handle is Katie Lynn Johnson.
Beautiful. And for everyone listening out there, I have put the links to everything Katie just said into the description of this episode so you can easily connect with her and all of her projects. Also, be sure to share this podcast with your fellow entertainers, coaches, teachers, arts and entertainment educators, and anyone you know aspiring to create a career in this industry. You Booked It is the #1 resource of expertise on how to actually create a successful entertainment career. Case in point, everything Katie shared with us today, so many amazing golden nuggets for your career and how to keep going forward. If you enjoy this episode, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next guest. Katie, thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad we got introduced, and I'm so glad you came on the show.
I am too. This has been so fun. I appreciate, what you do and how you are you have this desire to teach others and help other people. So just thanks so much for You Booked It podcast, and thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening today. If you enjoyed this episode and want more like it, be sure to smash that subscribe button. Also, be sure to jump inside the brand new You Booked It community. Head over to youbookeditpodcast.com/community or tap the link in the show notes right now and take your career to the next level. Inside, you'll connect with your people and develop real industry relationships, which, by the way, this podcast has discovered is the #1 fundamental that creates long-term career success. Discover opportunities and join in on over 20 upcoming live masterclasses. Tap the link in the description of this episode, and I'll see you there.